Hello and welcome. In this video I'll be talking about security in general, not only related to bicycles. So if you are interested in security, you might find this video to be interesting. I first want to make sort of a disclaimer that goes for most of my articles and videos, but I think it's important to stress it here explicitly. Everything that I say in this video is my opinion based on my knowledge, education and experience, and I also think it should be stressed in this context based on my moral compass or what I consider to be ethical, the right thing to do. Videos that I have made and articles related to various security related topics, most of the feedback I got was high quality, people asking questions or sharing additional information, and a deal of a part of comments and feedback was made of links to various articles and videos showing how various systems are hacked or locks picked and so on. And the first thing that I wish to address is that no system is 100% secure. 100% secure system is unusable by definition. I will maybe make a separate video explaining only that, don't want to take too much of your time, but as far as I know, everything can be hacked or picked or whatever. The main difference, the only difference is how much time and effort and knowledge and tools and resources it takes. So if you are trying to protect something that's of very high value, you will of course need better security systems, but even they are not completely 100% secure. That is the bottom line, and there's always a sort of a balance. The more something is, profitable for the thieves, the higher security you need, and vice versa to a certain point. I will address that also. So how do I choose locks for bicycles? I will be using bicycle locks as an example, but the same principle goes for all other types of security. So when I'm choosing locks, I disregard a vast majority of locks that are not of acceptable quality. What I mean by acceptable quality is that they cannot easily be defeated by the tools that, as far as I know, thieves in my city and country use. And that is my basic criteria. Out of those that accept that criteria, depending on how much money I can spend, I usually look for the cheapest one that's good, but I may, if I have enough money, pay a bit extra for even more security, especially if I value my bicycle very much, but I will disregard the vast majority of locks that can be defeated within seconds with bolt cutters, which is what most thieves use in my city. While on the other hand, various lock picking methods, I have to say, are not used by people who steal bicycles. So a lock that I could consider, okay, it's not too expensive, it's relatively easy to pick, but it's not easy to be defeated by bolt cutters. If someone asks me what's the cheapest one that's any good, I would recommend something like that. If they ask me the same question for securing their flat or house doors, I would avoid locks that are very easily picked, because as far as I know, people who break into houses are a bit more, they're a bit more prone to using the lock picking methods and having those tools. While I'm explaining that, I will again stress that no system is 100% secure, and of course every security system has a weak point. So my logic, the way I choose locks and security systems in general, is to try to figure out what kind of methods do thieves usually use, and are those systems prone to being hacked using those methods. If they have some other weak point, that's always a trade-off. If I have enough money, and I will try to make it as secure as possible, but there's always a certain trade-off, and not only in terms of money. Any extra security introduces extra hassle for you as a user. So that is also a thing to consider. You could carry 10 bicycle locks that are very big, very sturdy, very heavy on your bicycle, but that would make your bicycle useless to you. It would weigh 100 kilograms more, and you would always have to lock all those locks and unlock them when you want to move on. So there's always a trade-off, and again, you should be aware that any lock can be defeated, and if someone is really into your bicycle, they will find a way. That's not a problem. When it comes to security systems, it boils down to having your value better protected than others similar like that, and generally thieves will go for the low-hanging fruit if there is enough available, and fortunately or not, there usually always is. So if you invest in decent quality security, you are a lot less likely to have your things stolen. When it comes to bicycle locks, just like with any other security system, I will reiterate the hassle side of the things. Bike locks need to be heavy in order to be secure, and because steel is still the most secure system for locks and material, that's relatively difficult to hack or break or whatever, using any kinds of tools that are available today, and it gives the best results in terms of weight to strength ratio and resistance to being broken or anything else. So decent bicycle locks are usually heavy, and if you have a super light bicycle and you want to keep it locked secure, it will no longer be super light. You will have to carry a heavy lock, maybe not as heavy as some others, but when people choose locks primarily based on how heavy they are, that's a big mistake, because I don't think that below a few kilograms or 4 pounds it's a good lock. Something like this, for example, is decent but quite heavy. Similar thing goes for other means of security, but there's always a trade-off in that convenience or inconvenience. Another topic that I wish to discuss now is security through obscurity. That sounds very strange, but some people who are into security have their own opinions on that, and they often discuss that term. And so basically what security through obscurity is, that's the most basic example. Say I want to protect some valuables at my home, and I stash them below the mattress, under the mattress, or put them in my wardrobe under some clothes. That would be one example of security through obscurity, where I am only relying on obscurity to keep my valuables secure. The opposite method of that would be to have a big safe that's difficult to pick, with high walls with thick walls that are difficult to cut through, bolted to the floors and the walls so that it cannot be taken out, so that thieves can open it at their convenience in their own spare time as a hobby. And that is the opposite. So if I put that kind of safe in the middle of my room, easily visible, that gives me no obscurity, but it gives me security provided by that safe. And in my opinion, both of those extremes are not very good. In other words, it's good to use obscurity when it is convenient enough and when it makes sense. In this example, I think it would be a good idea to make your safe not be clearly visible where it is. If it's hidden somewhere, and especially if you have a good alarm system that will inform you and let you know when someone has broken in, that may buy you some time. Good safe that takes a lot of time to be picked and cannot be carried out easily, and if it's hidden, that just might buy you enough time for the police to arrive and prevent the thieves from taking your valuables. So security through obscurity can be a very good idea, and I generally think it is, if it is done properly and when it makes sense. But also you can overdo it. That is another extreme sorry, when it does not make too much sense. And the simplest example that I can think of is to take a safe and bury it in your backyard and cover it with ground and maybe plant some grass on top of it. That would provide some very good obscurity, especially if your neighbors don't see you doing that and don't think you're very crazy. But it will be highly inconvenient for you to retrieve anything from that safe. So there's always a trade-off even when that. So, but obscurity generally, I'm explaining this because I sometimes hear security experts to either glorify it or perhaps more often to completely disregard it. It's not safe. It's a good idea if it doesn't create too much extra hassle for you, and if it might buy you some time if it's not the only security that you're relying on. You have to have some other means of security on top of that. But it's a good idea and a good addition. And finally, what I wish to mention is some internet articles and videos that show people how to hack things, whether it's security systems, computers, or locks. If I made a lot of videos about various types of hacks, or how to make your own set of lockpicks or whatever, that would be probably interesting to watch, but in my opinion it is like making a simple how to do tutorial for thieves. As some people who make that kind of content argue that it helps make security better and educate people. It certainly does educate people, but I think about making things better as much as I understand human nature, how we make decisions, and as much as I understand how corporations run, including companies that make security products. I don't think that will help make security products better any more than it would have helped had they just sent their knowledge and information discreetly to those who make security systems. And it does create a lot of credibility if you show that you can easily hack and then say I can have problems hacking something. It's not too bad, but I think that any benefit is outweighed by providing an easy, simple to use tutorial for thieves. Because I think that in order to be a criminal and a good thief, a good burglar or something like that, you generally before the internet had a very hard time. First you had to be inclined towards doing things like that. Then you had to hang out with the right kinds of experts to learn the trade and the tricks, and that is generally not something that experts on either side of the law are always very happy to share. So you need a bit of luck and you need a lot of hard work and figuring things out, and you are very likely to get caught and put in prison before you figure out how to do it properly. But if you are provided with an easy to do tutorial, it's much easier to start. You get a push start, and that's the main reason why my opinion is that I should not make any videos like that, and that is the only exception that I make when I create content. I generally always try to explain how I reach certain conclusions, why I think something is better than the other, how things work, and explain everything in detail. But regarding how to beat various kinds of security systems, I don't want to make content like that. The most that I do is to show some methods that I consider to be very widely known, so that I'm not really giving out any help to any criminals, but that's where I draw the line. So I usually say, okay, this lock is relatively easily picked, or this lock is susceptible to attacks with bolt cutters and similar. But for any other more exotic means, and there are some very clever and interesting ways, I enjoy reading and learning and watching videos that are tutorial for that, but I don't do any crime, and I mostly use it to fix stuff when something gets key broken or something like that, to do as little damage as possible. But again, that's my opinion. That's what I do. It's how I sleep well at night, and it's my choice. So that's it. And that's how I choose locks and security systems in general for myself. And that's as much as I can do, is to give recommendation by saying I think this is acceptably good, but I will not go into details of explaining how it can be hacked, or it's no secret that many things can be relatively easily hacked. It always boils down to what the thieves use, what other options the thieves have. They will always use the easier option, and I'm yet to find a perfect security solution, either for physical security for computers or for bicycles, but it still boils down to choosing the best you can, and especially there's also a limit of how much money you can spend and how much money you think should be spent. I can also address that just briefly. There's some people saying like locks or security should cost this percentage of what you're trying to protect. There is some truth to that, because the more something is valuable to you, even if it's not in terms of money, not everything can be valued with money, but or if it is very expensive, there is a minimal threshold when some security system is just too easy to beat with methods that thieves generally like to use and use very often. And if that is the case, like it is the case for bicycle locks, for example, I cannot recommend a bicycle lock under $40. Even if your bicycle costs $50 second hand, if you buy a lock that is cheap, that is cut with bolt cutters in 1 second, you will be buying a new $50 bicycle every month. So in that case, I would rather recommend, and that's what I do, spend more money on a decent lock that will last for decades, and hopefully have the bicycle be with me for decades. When you have a bicycle that costs $10,000 or something, of course then you can play with that percentage and calculate the risks and everything, but there is always a certain threshold where the value of what you're trying to preserve, if you want to preserve it, if it's not completely, no problem. If it gets stolen, sometimes there's not just a strict line of use this percentage, especially for bicycles and for cheaper bicycles. And that's it. I hope you find this video interesting and somewhat useful. You can, as always, share your thoughts in the comment section below. I want to thank everyone who's watched the videos and made comments, especially the additional information and corrections. That always helps me think about things from other angles and improve the content, so it's even better and more useful to everyone. And this is my way of, I think it's fair to address, because it gets through the comments and quite often these kinds of topics, and I wanted to make one video to sort of address them. And that's it. Thank you very much for watching, and cheers. If you like this video, you can click on subscribe and choose this bell option, select all, so you get notified whenever I upload a new video.